So today we're going to be building out a Crud app. Can anybody tell me what a Crud app is and what is Crud?
Create, read, update, and delete references, databases, or data storage, where your app can do those things. It can create data, read data, update data, and delete data.
Exactly. So pretty much, thank you, Julian. Pretty much everything is a Crud app. Anything of like, I don't want to say of value, but anything on the internet, like Facebook is a Crud app. You're able to create posts, update posts, you're able to delete posts, you're able to upload pictures, like, yeah, Crud app, or Facebook, Twitter, Excel is a Crud app. You're able to create tables, you're able to enter things into cells, you're able to update cells, you're able to delete things from the cells. Yeah, so pretty much everything is a Crud app. Google Maps is a Crud app. You're able to save your star certain places. You're able to, yeah, create, read, update, delete. So that is Crud. And pretty much if you go to work at a company, more often than not, you'll actually be working on a Crud product, something like a Crud, like Venmo. I don't know. Yeah, Venmo, you're able to create a user, update your user information, even delete user information. But yeah, so that is what Crud stands for. So with that, today we're going to actually, in order to create, read, update, and delete, we're going to need a way to do that on the screen through forms. And so up until this point, we really haven't been using forms, like in yesterday's challenge. In yesterday's lecture, we used a form, but it was more of just like a radial button click form. We didn't actually type anything out. So, and today we're going to actually create a library app that stores, or a library project that has books, and we want to be able to see those books, create a new book, edit a book, and information about that book. So we're able to create a book, edit information about that book, and then also delete a book from our database if we wanted to. So again, this is all about repetition, repetition, repetition. So the first thing I need to do is, what is it? Pip install, or not pip install. What's the first thing I need to do?
Start an environment.
Yep, create an environment. Python-make venv, venv. Enter in that environment source, venv, bin activate. There we go, I'm in my virtual environment. Next, I need to install, we're gonna be using a Postgres database for this, so I'm gonna pip install Django, Psycob G2, Django extensions, and IPython. All right. Oh, what happened? Why didn't it do that?
Oh, you have PYS.
What was it? Did I spell it wrong?
Misspelled it, yeah. PSY.
Oh, thank you. Let's run that again. It's installing everything. All right. So after this, I'm going to create a Postgres database by doing create DB library. So come on. All right. I'm going to clear the screen. I'm going to create a database, DB library. All right. SQL library. All right, I've got a library. Didn't find any relations. Great. I'm going to clear the screen. Now I actually need to start a library Django project. So then you Django admin, start project, library. All right, here's my Django library project. Dang it. I'm actually going to remove the library because I don't like it like that. So I'm going to rm rf library, clear it. I'm going to do that again, create a library again, but I don't want it to be nested. I just want everything to be at the same level as my virtual environment for right now. It's just how I want it. Okay, so next I need to start a project, or not start a project, start an app, and that app is going to be called books. So Python manage.py, start app, books. There's my books app. The next step that we should be pretty familiar with is to add books to my Django, my settings, and Django underscore extensions. Also, I'm going to need to add my Postgres database, PostgreSQL, get rid of my SQLite. It's called library. All right. Done all that. I've got my books app, my Django extensions there. Next, I need to actually create some URLs. Yep. So I need to import include as well. And come down here and go to books, include, actually I'm going to comment this out for right now. I'm going to first create my model for books. So inside my models, I'm going to create class book, because I'm going to have a book model, book models dot model. And I'm going to have, what should we have in my models or my book class? So I'm going to have, title. I can have models dot char field, max length equals, let's do 200. So I want title, author, and genre. Title, author, genre, and do the number of pages, models.py, and have it be an integer field. And I'm going to include a dunder string, def dunder string underscore takes in the self. And I'm going to do return f string ID self.id and title self.title. So I created a book model that has a title, author, genre, and a number of pages. Does anybody have any questions so far of what I just did? Created a library app, or I'm sorry, library project, created a book app, added the books app to my Django settings file, and just created a model. So I'm going to create a couple of entries so far. So Python manage.py shell plus. All right. Is this going to work?
Did we create the database yet?
So we created the database, but what didn't we do?
Migrations.
Thank you. So I'm going to do Python manage.py, make migrations, books, created a migrations script with that 0001. And I can do Python manage.py, migrate books. All right. So now I can actually go into my shell plus or my shell and create some books. Books, title, copy over some code. Author, Ben Horowitz. Pages or genre, let's call it, what is it, business. And pages equals 308. And do dot save. Uh-oh, what happened? Oh, book. There we go. I can do book dot objects dot first. Cool. There's my first book. ID of 1, title, a hard thing about hard things. All right, that's great. Now let's start creating our URLs, our views, and our templates for this app. So I've got our models, don't need the settings anymore. So in here, kind of already have it filled out. Books include, what should that be? Include books.urls. And then in our books app, we need to create our urls.py. I'm going to copy this over. All right, get rid of this. And in here, we want to create our first route. That probably just lists all the books. So views.book list name equals book list. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and create all the other URLs right now, but I'm going to comment them out. So I go to a book list. If I go to a book, individual book, it's going to have a book detail, or yeah, let's do book detail. Book detail. If I just go to books/new, this is where I'm going to create a new book. If I go to books/edit/ followed by the book ID, I can edit the book. If I do go to books/delete followed by the book ID, I'm able to delete the book, but we'll get to that shortly. All right, I'm going to spin up the server, python manage.py, run server, and I probably should see something break. All right, no, there's no views. We just created a URL. So now we have to go into our views and create our book list method. Def book list takes in the request. So our book list should do what? It should render all the books. So I can say all books equals book.objects.all. So that means I'm going to have to need to import my books class from my models. So from books.models import book. All right. And now I've got my all books. I can grab my data, all underscore books, all books. Now I can return, render the request, followed by books/book list.html and pass in the data there. All right, so I created my URLs, goes to /books, comes into here, if the if there's nothing after that / comes into views, book list. Then so it comes into views, finds that method book list, takes in the request, does a query for all the book objects or all the books in the database, assigns it to a variable, all books, create an object, all books object, and pass that in the data. And it should render this book list HTML file, which we have yet to create. It's all pretty repetitive at this point. Templates, books, then book list.html. There we go. I'm just going to do h1 did this render. Refresh that. Uh-oh. Views name. All right. So in here, looks like I didn't import anything in the views. So I need to import from period, import views. There we go. So if I go to localhost 8000, all right, nothing shows up. If I go to, just so you know, Django has a built-in admin panel, which we will get to next week. I just kind of want to show you that now. So if I want to go to books, here we go, it did this render. Cool. But now within the book list is where I'm going to actually want to render all the books. So, and I'm going to actually render a table. So, and instead of, I'm going to copy some code here, delete this, delete some of this. I want pages. Author, genre. All right. So if I refresh it, I have this books table. It says the title, the see, like that's wrong right there. So I'm going to do set of pages, do author, genre. There we go. So I've got the title, the author, the genre, and the number of pages. We will be adding this view to go to view an individual book. We're going to add an edit button to go to an edit page and a delete button to go to a delete page. But does anybody have any questions about how this works right now? Nope. Great. Since this looks really crappy, I'm going to translate that all to Bootstrap and change some stuff. All right. Delete that. So title, author, genre, and I have to do that up here. Author, genre. Now that looks a little bit better. It's all just done with Bootstrap. I'm using a Jumbotron for the books. Cool. So title, hard thing about hard things, author, business, pages. All right. Now I'm going to want to add this view thing, this a view link here. So in my URLs, uncomment that. So if it goes to a book ID, I need to book detail, come into views, book. So it goes book view, request, passes in the book ID, grabs a book, book.objects, dot get ID equals book ID. Book detail, is it book detail? Book detail. There we go. So see if this works. If I come here and if I go to /1, I get an error because we have yet to create that template. So I can go back into my books template, grab book detail, book detail.html. Great. H1 book detail page. Now if I can refresh, there's my book detail page. In my views, so I'm going to create some helper methods. A helper method is just a method that you can use that you build on by yourself. So it's easier. You could just call that and it'll output some output. So instead of just book.objects.get, I'm going to create a helper method called get_book, passes in a book ID, and it's going to return book.objects.get ID equals book ID. And so now anytime I just want to grab a book, I can just call this helper method. All right. If I refresh, everything looks good. Uh-oh, books does not exist. Cool. Now let's actually, instead of having just this basic HTML, let's actually grab, so book detail page, we can say book detail, H2, we do title, book.title, and we can add some other stuff, book title, author, genre, and pages. Instead of these being H2 tags, let's make them paragraph tags. So here we go. Whoop. Title, author, genre, pages. There we go. We should be pretty familiar with how to grab a list as well as viewing the individual detail page. Does anybody have any questions up until this point? Nope. I can add an href, like a back button. I can go href \books. See if this works. Uh-oh. Books-books. If I just do that. Nope. Does that still not work? If I wanted to view the individual one, there we go. If I press back, there we go. But I need to add a link here to go to the ID. So I can go to my book list and add a column for that. Let's go ahead. So I can just go to, so we can add a named route. See if this works. Uh-oh, folks not registered namespace. So let's go ahead and make an actual route for this instead of having to hard code it. So I can go to URLs, app underscore name equals books. That should do it. Oh. So reverse book view not found, not a valid function. Oh, not book detail. Where is it? Book underscore detail. There we go. So now I can click on that. It can go to the individual ID back. View back. Cool. Does anybody have any questions up until this point?
It's what was the error that you had before you added the change to your view UI?
Before I added the change, it said, because I had this as book view. So it was looking for, inside of my view, looking for a method called book view. So I had to change it to a method book detail, which actually grabs the individual detail of that specific book. So it comes in here, book detail, grabs that book by the ID, and then renders the book detail page.
Okay.
And I can also do, instead of hard coding here in this back button, I can essentially do the same thing. URL, books, what is it, books, book list? Underscore list. I'm gonna do double. And always make sure there's a space in between, because if I do, so if I view, if I press back, if I don't have a space here, I think it breaks. Oh, no, it doesn't. Cool. That's good. So I've got a named route, so I don't have to hard code anything. All right. Let's keep moving. So now we can create a new book. So when we go to /new, we can come into their views and create a new book. But we want to render something. So if I go, when we create, if I go back, oh, it's broken. So when I go to URLs and I go to /new, it wants to go to a book create, which will render something. So let's go into views, def, book create, request. I can say like return, let's do HTTP, is HTTP response up here yet? Nope. It's just your render, request. Is it books / some book form.html and pass in some data. All right, book form HTML, book form.html, enter H1 book form. All right, so if I go to /new, it says data is not defined. And here, I can just do an empty object. Still not working. See if this works. There we go. So when I go to the /new, I should have a form that I'm able to fill out and submit, and that will create a new form. So in order to create forms in Django, it's actually pretty easy. So Django does a lot of heavy lifting. They don't want developers wasting or spending time and creating, all the fields in the HTML file, as well as parsing through a request when a form is submitted. So what Django has done as they have a forms class, a built-in forms class that pretty much creates a form for you, and you just kind of tell it like what you want it to display. So in Django, they've got the forms class, but they also have the ability to create a form from a specific model. So in our model, where's our model? Our model title, author, genre, pages. If I wanted to create a form from this model, I'd have to create like a bunch of stuff. I'd have to create like a bunch of input fields and like a select drop down or something like that, or just have like a numbers field. But Django handles all that for us. So I can say from Django.forms import model form class. And now, so I've got the access to all the functionality in this model form class. You can say like forms in Django, working with forms. Go down here. So instead of doing all that, Django has this forms class where we can create a class called a name form, and we can determine what we want, what attributes we want on that specific field for that form, like that input. Let's see if model form. However, Django also has a model form class, which creates a HTML form from your models. So from this example, it says we can create an article form, where in our case, we're going to create a book form and pass in the model form, inherit everything from the model form. And then they have this meta class that is a meta class from model form. And the only things we need is to tell the article form what model it's from, as well as what fields we want to include in the form. And we include that, it's just metadata that we need. So it's a model equals book, which we're already importing from here. And the fields we want as an array, we want the title, author, what was it, genre, and the pages. So we have this book form class. Now, in order to pass this to our specific HTML template, we create an instance of that class. So let's call it book form equals book. So we're instantiating a new, book form. We're instantiating a new book form class or instance. And what we're going to pass in here is either if there's a request coming through, if that request is a post request, pass it into here. Otherwise, have it just be an empty instance. Does anybody have any questions so far? So let's print this book form. So if I go to new, nothing happened. But now if I look down here, this is what it's creating right here when I'm printing this book form. Title, author, genre, pages, and it already has, so the title, it's going to be an input value for an in the HTML. It's going to have an input. The type is text. The name of it is title, has a max length of 200, and it's required. So it's already adding all these attributes to this input HTML field. So that's what that book form is. Does anybody have any questions? So let's see what this looks like. So I can say that if book form dot, actually, let's just, I'm going to say instead of data here, I'm going to say data equals the form is this book form instance, which is literally just this stuff down here. Whoop. As well as going to pass in something else. I'm going to say new or edit. And in this case, I want this to be a new field or like a new form. Because this book form, we're probably going to have to reuse this at some point when we want to go to edit. So let's just refresh this. All right, nothing's happening. Cool. So it's not broken. So now I can go over to my book form HTML. And I can say book form. Is this a new or edit value? So when it's passing in, where the views go, new or edit, it's going to be a new, oh, here we go. It's going to be a new form. So it comes into the book form, new or edit. So book form should be new. And then I can say a form. The method is going to be a post. So we got a form. And now, since before it was, this is all I'm literally going to need to put in here. I need to somehow put this value, which is the form, in here. I can do, since I'm passing in the book form right here as form, I can do form, but then I need to do a dot as p, which is add all these values as a paragraph tag. And then just add the input type like that. That's literally all up. Go ahead.
So on line 3, if we did as H1, everything would be, or does it only work with certain specific tags?
I believe it only works with certain specific tags like ordered lists, as well as maybe, I think, a table, or I think a table.
Yeah, I think there's 3 built-ins that they give you. You can override and like make it div if you want to go that far into digging into it. But I think it's as p, as ul, and as table are what you get from
Django.
The built-in forms. Yeah.
Yep. And there are ways to manually override all of this, but we're not going to get into that right now. I just want to show you kind of what the bare minimum of what you need to do to get a form to display. So if I refresh it, there's a form. got title, author, pages right here. So what I did was create a new book form, inheriting all the attributes from the model form. And inside this meta class, which essentially is a subclass from model form, we just add the model we want and the fields we want to show up. If we didn't want pages to show up, we can just refresh that. If I refresh, pages is no longer there. So let's refresh, and we have pages. All right. So now we have creating a book form. So if I actually like type stuff in here and submit it, it says, uh-oh, CSRF verification failed, request aborted. So with that, inside of my book form, I actually need to add some security when I'm creating a post request. It's called a Csrf token. Just anytime this is like specific to Django, it's just an added layer of protection. So you need like a token when you're sending a post request over. So if I deleted this and changed to like a GET request, just do GET, refresh this. If I do a GET request, notice how GET request, everything just comes through the URL, and I didn't get any errors. But we're doing post requests, and we're actually like posting stuff to a database. That's why we need the Csrf token. It's just an added layer of protection. So if I added that Csrf token, now I can submit it. Let's see if I got books. Let's go to /new. They're like kind of like refresh, but nothing happened because it doesn't know what to do with that request. So what I need to do inside this book form or this book create method, I can say if the book form dot is valid, which is a built-in method that determines whether or not anything coming through the request is actually valid, and that's based off of whether or not like it's a text, it meets the minimum requirements, and all that stuff. I can do book form.save. This is just like the normal save thing that we need to add it to the database. And after we submit it, I want it to redirect to the books page. So I can say return, redirect, books, book _ list. And up here, I'm going to have to import the redirect. So I'm going to go to books and go to new. And let's add another book and see what happens. Where's my URLs? So I'm going to add a new book. Just filling up author, genre, science, fiction, horror, and 432. And if I submit it, there we go. I'm going to be able to view it. So that's how we can create a form in Django. We import the model form, we create a new form of what we're actually, of the model we want to create it from, which is a book. So we're calling it book form. Inside this subclass of meta, we're adding a model equals the name of the model we want to create the form for, as well as all the fields for that model. Then we're creating a new instance book form. If there is no request coming through, or if there's not a post request coming through, it's just set to none. So when it first loads, so if I go to new, when it first loads, it comes into here, book create. The book form initially is none, so the book form is not valid, so it skips over this, and it creates this data object, which has an empty book form instance and this new or edit, and it's initially applied to new, and it's rendering the book form HTML because it comes into here. Whatever this new or edit value is shows up here, which is currently new, and then it just renders a new form. This form is going to be has a method of post. We have to import or add the Csrf token. And then what we need to do is actually render the form. So we do form, which is being passed from our view right here, form, book form. So this form dot as p as paragraph tag, it renders all the fields. And then we just add this input, which is a type submit and a value submit. So that's how we can create a new form. Does anybody have any questions?